Good afternoon, brothers. How you doing, guys? Hope you are well. Sorry, I am having a little bit of a technical issue right now where it says that the stream is offline on both YouTube and Twitch, but I've pulled up the stream and it is definitely there, so I have no idea why it's telling me it's offline. And hopefully you guys can see the stream in the chat today, so that's something that we've just added. So, sorry about the teething issues. I have no idea why it's telling me it's offline, but I'm pretty sure you guys can hear me. Please just give me a shout out in the chat if everything sounds and looks good. I'd appreciate that. So who's in here today? We got Pedroig, Cornelius, haven't seen you before, I'm not sure. Hello, welcome. Mark, Highland, Tony, Carrie, Chris, Origin. Yeah, good evening everybody. Northern Hero, how you guys all doing? You all see me. Good. I have no idea where it just says restreaming, both channels are offline. I'm sure it'll fix itself at some point. This stuff tends to fix itself. I don't know why it's showing offline. I have no idea. Okay. Anyway, then let's get into it today. So we are looking at army lists as always on a Sunday. So thank you for coming and hanging out. And we will start with we put up the guest window here, so that if you are tuning in late, you can follow along and know whose list we're looking at. So we're going to start with Anthony, and the lists that we have for today are Anthony, D. King, Emmanuel, I'm not sure how to say your last name, so we'll just go with Emmanuel, James, and my side. Hello, thank you very much for the follow, I appreciate that. So we'll start off with Anthony. And the structure of the stream pretty much every week is to go through people's army lists. Here comes some follows, nice, thank you. It's actually kind of small for me to read who's following. Dan the Hammerman, thank you, Dan. So we go through and we check out people's army lists and we sort of score them based on some criteria that I've got in that. We look at obset, we look at if we can clear hordes and infantry, we look how they do against vehicles, mobility and specializations. And every week in chat, if anyone has any suggestions, I appreciate them. You know, like once we've scored the list, if you guys have any suggestions for the people's lists to make them better, they're always appreciated as well, so that we're basically giving the best information we can. And if there's any rules questions or anything like that, I got the codexes here as well, so we can look up those. And the strat in the chat in the stream should be pretty cool. So let's just move everything so I'm not overlapped by any of my overlays, and then we'll get straight into it. Something like this, and yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, and then let me catch up and chat. Good afternoon, Julian, thanks for tuning in. Michael, Carrie, Mark, and Benjamin, nice. Yeah, so we are streaming on both platforms, but for whatever reason it's telling me that we're offline. I don't know why. Look, I can show you right here, look, it's saying YouTube is offline, Twitch is offline. So, I don't know why. Anyway, right, so if there's any issues, what's your idea for a good shooty captain? Wow. I guess there's that one Phobos captain that I'd probably take. That we used to get the Decimator, which was a pretty cool relic, and it was like an auto bolt gun. I don't think we get that anymore. We get this Assault 4 bolt rifle, the Bellicose bolt rifle, a model equipped with a mastercrafted auto bolt rifle only. Maybe that one would be good. Let me show you. The Bellicose bolt rifle. So, like that captain that got announced yesterday, you know, the one for the new kill team. He is he is a captain with a master-crafted heavy bolt rifle. Oh, can you not change it? Why do they make these Primaris captains so limited, right? Like, he could easily swap out his heavy bolt rifle for a auto bolt rifle. It's so stupid. I guess you could run a regular Primaris captain, not this one with the mastercrafted heavy bolt rifle. I guess you could run one with the master. You could just run a regular Primaris captain, but then, I guess if you do that, then you don't get. This one was nice because he had this one here was nice because he has the crafted rifle and the power sword, so it's like he can shoot a bit and he can do a bit of melee. But the Primaris options are just way too limited. You know, someone was asking this week about Death Company, and I was like, just make regular Death Company. The Primaris options are just too limited still. Phobos Captain is okay. Yep, stream and chat all okay on YouTube. All right, cool, thanks. Thank you for the follow, Arcsuit. I appreciate that. So, hey, we've been watching your channel a lot, and we started playing again, and I've been stuck in lockdown for a long time due to living in, I guess that's California, USA. So no time to play yet, and no clue on the meta. But I really love Death Company, and I'm aiming for 1500 point list but we're willing to later get it to 1750 points. I'm really keen on adding a Redemptor Dreadnought, and maybe heavy intercessors when they drop, Sangri Priest and Bite Chaplain Captain, just too much good stuff. Anyway, thanks for all the effort in growing this hobby and the bloodthirsty faction for the Fallen Angel. Okay, Anthony. My commander, you have a chance to check out the Van Vets with claws and shields. Was in combat with Magnus and did 20 wounds to him in 2 rounds of combat. I need to do a video for Tuesday because I haven't made anything yet. So maybe I'll just do I was thinking of doing some sort of comparison video for Tuesday. So we'll make something smaller that's doing some math hammer based on some of the suggestions we'll have here. I'll write that down so I don't remember, and I'll work on that later tonight. VV's DC, and then I want to do DC captains as well because I think there's some interesting options in the Death Company captains. Alright, so this first list by Anthony. It is a battalion, great, so we know what that is. 3 troop choices, and we start with a chaplain. This just looks like a regular chaplain with a jump pack. He is the Master of Sanctity, he does an Infernal Pistol, Canticle of Hate and Litany of Faith. So I guess he's worried about incoming mortal wounds at some point. So he's got that litany. He didn't take the Wise Orator, which seems a bit strange. Like, if you're going to make this chapter, if you're going to pick this chaplain and make him a Master of Sanctity, I'd probably make him the Wise Orator. I feel like he hasn't really spent any of his CP, so make this the Wise Orator, and it'll just let you cast both your litanies on 2s. I think it's generally just a lot stronger than casting your litanies on 3s. And then we have a Librarian in Terminator armor with Adamantium Mantle, Force Sword, and he is the Warlord. That's fine. I feel like it's a bit strange, though, to just pick Adamantium Mantle and you haven't mentioned Warlord trait, so again, like, plus a trait here, I guess. So you probably Psychic Mastery, right? Like, that's not how you spell Psychic, but Psychic Mastery could be pretty cool. Or Iron Resolve is decent as well. Verbal Journal. $4.99 through Super Chat. Just wanted to say thank you for the kind feedback from my Librarian Dreadnought post in the Facebook group. Really helped me with the hobby enthusiasm. You're very welcome, Verbal. Thank you very much for coming in with the Super Chat. I really appreciate it. They're always so nice to get. So I think I guess a couple of little tweaks here. I mean, I think what he means by detachment 3 CP here is that he has spent 3 CP, but if the Warlord's in the detachment, you get them back. So I guess this is like a 12 CP list. Maybe not 12 CP because it's a slightly smaller battle, actually, but still, you could definitely pick up a trait here. Definitely consider a Wise Orator as hero of the chapter. that could definitely improve both of these HQ choices. Mine is a Terminator Captain with Stormbolter, Power Fist, and Grenade Launcher. I mean, I don't know why you would particularly want to build a shooting character, unless, of course, you're like running a list that's like heavy in Eradicators, right? I just think our characters are so much stronger on melee combat. So I mean, if you want to build a shooting character, you can. But like, I just want to say that we're much stronger in melee combat. And yeah, I mean, it's really great to have enthusiasm for the hobby. I mean, I try and build enthusiasm in this channel every week. So, thanks again for that, Verbal. You can do Mastercrafted, Master Marksman trait for +1 damage, Quake Bolts, and the Relic works. Yeah, I mean, if you really want to do it, you're probably going to want to the Phobos Captain, right? He has to be Chief Librarian for Psychic Mastery. Yeah, you're right, Pedroy. Glad you're here keeping me right. So, I guess maybe a different trait then. I'm trying to think, your Terminator Chaplain your Librarian Terminator, you're probably not going to be super aggressive with him. I mean, if you're super aggressive, think about something like Imperium Sword or Gift of Foresight. But, I mean, I do generally like Psychic Mastery a lot. If you're gonna use this guy to cast a lot of powers, then Psychic Mastery is definitely very good. It's like a 10% increase on successful casts every turn. Let's get back to this, the Chapter Master on the bike. I guess that's one thing to say about this Chaplain. If this was the Chaplain on the bike, he'd actually just be 5 points more expensive, and he gets, I think it's +1 toughness and +2 wounds. It's pretty crazy for 5 more points, right? Normally 1 more wound costs about 10 points, so the Chaplain on the bike are really competitive options right now. Alright, so moving into troops. We get 2 squads of Assault Intercessors, and I think he's put a Power Sword on the Sergeants. And then we've got 1 massive squad of regular Intercessors with auto bolt rifles, and we've got 10 of them. You can take a free chainsword on that Sergeant, just so you know. It costs you 0 points to take a chainsword on your Intercessor Sergeant, so may as well throw a chainsword in there. If you don't have a arm with a chainsword on it, I guess you could just glue a chainsword to his hip or something like that, buy one on eBay. So these troop choices are fine. I mean, they're not the most competitive troop choices, right? I generally think the Phobos troops, the Incursors, and the Infiltrators are our strongest troop choices at the moment. I mean, heavy Intercessors might throw a little bit of a curveball in this, but because this is a 10-man, like if you push this into the middle of the board, it's a lot of shots. You know, it's 30 bolt rifle shots a turn, and obviously they can charge and follow that up. So it's decent enough for troops. Like I've got no huge complaints. But if you want to make it stronger, I would say seriously consider Phobos units. Incursors and Infiltrators are both very strong. Both slightly different roles. Incursors are probably more offensive, Infiltrators are a bit more defensive, but I mean, I tend to run both, or at least post-lockdown. I'm in the same situation, like I can't play at the moment, but I have a new list and it has Incursors and Infiltrators in it, and I'll be running it as soon as lockdown ends. Then we have a Death Company. It's quite a big Death Company here. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's a 9-man Death Company. And we've got 2 Infernal Pistols. A Power Sword. 2 Power Swords and a Power Fist. I mean, that's fine, I guess. You know, like I do recommend, like a couple of Infernal Pistols is nice. Because if you do get the opportunity to fire them, then you can do a lot of damage. And yeah, I mean, I guess Tycho is a good shooting character. The only issue with Tycho is his limited range. But if you had a drop pod and you were willing to put Tycho in the drop pod and you wanted him as a shooting character, then you could do that. But I imagine if you're trying to do some sort of strat with shooting characters, not entirely sure how you would not entirely sure. Yeah, tell me more information about the shooting strat. Like, what is the plan? What other units you're running with it? I need to know a little bit more to see if we can help you out with the shooting stand. How can you post your list? Sorry, I should have said that at the start of the stream. So if you ever want to post your list to me, I have a little bit of a backlog, but I mean, it's fine. What you would do is you'd head over to the Blood Angels Commander channel and on Facebook. So that's like this URL here, you know, like where is it? Sometimes it makes it this weird one, but this is what it is. YouTube.com/C/Blood Angels Commander. Click on Community, and then in the first post you see here, so I guess this post I put up today, just comment your list in here. So you just hit comment and put your list in this one, and that's how I find the list, right? I check the latest community one, and I pull the lists from there into my folder. And I guess after we go through Anthony's list, we'll look at the next week's lists and stuff. So if people are wanting to submit lists, you can see where they are coming. Okay. So I'm a little confused. Like 2 power swords and a power fist. I mean, it's fine, I guess. Like maybe if it was me, I would probably just split the difference and just have a thunder hammer. But I mean, maybe that's what he's got modelled. So, I mean, I think it's okay. I mean, it's nice to have a power fist, I guess, because it gives you some more options if you need to fit your points in. But Thunderhammers are generally pretty good on the Death Company, especially now that there's ways to give them, like, multiple ways to give them +1 to hit. There's better ways for giving them rerolls. There's better ways to get them into Savage Echoes earlier. So, yeah, that's that. And then this Sangri Guard is very small, if you ask me. Like, a 5-man Sangri Guard. I would probably be tempted, like, these intercessors with your auto bolt rifles are 20 points a shot, right? And your Sanguine Guard models are 30 points a shot. I'd probably be tempted to drop 3 of these and run like a 7-man intercessor squad and make this like a 7-man Sangri Guard. I always think Sangri Guard work best in like 7 to 9. 7 to 9, especially 7 in like a 1500 point game, you're probably gonna be able to overkill almost anything you run into. So, whereas 5, you might end up getting unstuck against some enemy unit. So, I don't see much ways to do rerolls in this list. I mean, maybe you can have like Unleash Rage on your Terminator Chaplain, and I suppose you could have Litany of Hate off on your regular Chaplain, but yeah, I feel like your Sangri Guard would be. I feel like a 7-man Sangri Guard and 7 intercessors is going to do more damage than 10 assault, 10 intercessors and 5 Sangri Guard. And then finally, to top the list off, you have a Storm Raven gunship. So I feel like Storm Ravens don't work in 2,000 points. They're too easy to destroy and take off the battlefield. Oh, I really didn't even realise this. You haven't quite built up your 1,500 points yet. Alright, well then just buy another box of Sangri Guard here and add 4 more Sangri Guard. That would be 120 points. That would take you up to just like 7 points shy. 4 more Sangri Guard and like throw 1 Infernal Pistol or 1 Power Fist into that group. And there you go. That's your 1,500 points. I do think that Storm Ravens aren't survivable in 2,000 point games, but maybe they're okay in 1,500 point games. 1 second, I have to turn something off. So, Heavy Bolter, Twin Las Cannons, 2 Hurricane Bolters. So I guess you've got quite a bit of clear with it, but yeah, I guess you just have to be careful because the Storm Raven deploy it pretty far back. I mean, it has that 45-inch move, so I guess you have it. Someone says, I run 2 times 6 Incursors and 1 times 6 Infiltrators. Okay, why 6 and not 5? I mean, that's interesting. Assault Intercessors do have the potential to fight twice, and I guess regular Intercessors do have the potential to shoot twice. You are right, Mark, and thanks for pointing that out. I do, as much as I like the fact that they can fight twice. I mean, like, for me, the role of troops in my battles usually are to hold objectives, right? It's like all my elites that are doing the heavy damage. Usually, I say that, usually that's the strategy. So, for troops, that's why I like the Phobos so much, is like they will survive and hold those key objectives and get me my primary points, and then I can worry about elites with things like Mortarion running about, I wonder if we might just see a resurgence of big units of intercessors just for the survivability. I actually think that heavy intercessors are going to be really useful there as well, because if I'm correct, Mortarion's weapon is like strength 8 or 9, right? So against heavy intercessors, he will only wound on 3s, whereas regular intercessors, he will wound on 2s. So I think there's a lot to be said for that, the ability to make it harder for the enemies to wound, especially like because Mortarion rerolls 1s, I think, when he wounds, or at least he did before because he had a plagued weapon, right? So hitting on 2s rerolling 1s, like it's almost like he's going to guarantee to wound. Hitting on 3s rerolling 1s, I mean, you're probably talking like 20% chance less to wound. So it does make a difference, and then having those 3 wounds on every model again makes a difference. And if he doesn't use like his powerful weapon, if he uses the one that gives him like a shitload more attacks, then you could use Unyielding in the face of the foe to make your Gravis Skies save on 2s, which I guess like he's probably got like a -3 on that weapon or a -2, so you still get a reasonably decent armor save against it. So I guess we'll maybe see a resurgence of heavy intercessors. Well, maybe not a resurgence. Maybe we'll see a lot of people take heavy intercessors. I wonder if see, yesterday, did anyone actually watch the Games Workshop live stream? Did they say when those heavy intercessors kill team box were coming out, or did they leave it very ambiguous? I did say that I think normally it takes about a month for that stuff to come out, but yeah, hard to say exactly, I guess. I guess, yeah, I mean, the longer they last longer, plus you can put Transhuman and Smokescreen, plus the meta I play and doesn't have much blast. I think you have to pay, if you have more than 5 models in the squad, you have to pay an extra CP for Transhuman, right? Let me double check that. Transhuman, yeah, if it's 5 or fewer models, I don't know if having 1 more model means paying 1 more CP for Transhuman is really worth it. Or just follow the Blood Angels commander tactic of not worrying about OBSEC and just killing things off objectives. I mean, yeah, I like that, where you just say, this is the way. This is the way that we play Blood Angels. Pedroig is very much also the same guy in terms of he doesn't care about OBSEC either. We just, we still have a few OBSEC squads, but we just go in and contest objectives and kill people. Yeah, I mean, if the enemy has no objectives, no units left in the objective, right? It doesn't matter if they're OBSEC or not, I guess. Alright, so they spent the best part of 14 minutes just talking at the beginning, and then I got fed up. Yeah, I always babysit my daughter on Saturday, so 1:45 on Saturday doesn't really work for me. Okay, so yeah, let's have a look at this list again. So we've made some suggestions. Probably get some more Sangri Guard in there. Question marks about the flyer, but I mean it's probably okay because it's 1500 points. Alright, so let's just go ahead and score this first list. Objective skewered, then I think we talked last week that like three squads of guys gets about 8.5 and Phobos gets 9s. Well, he does have a 10-man squad in there, so probably give him a 9. We have a lot of chainsword attacks, and we have a lot of auto bolt rifles that can fire twice. And I guess the Storm Raven brings enough DACA as well, with 2 twin heavy bolters, 2 hurricane bolters. So I mean, against anti-infantry, we're going to clear things generally very effectively. Vehicles are going to be a bit more of a problem for this list. Don't see any Thunderhammers. I mean, like, we got 1 Power Fist, and we get 2 Power Fists in the whole list. We got a couple of twin link las cannons, but like I said, Storm Ravens tend to be bullet magnets and not survive that long. The Chaplain only has an Infernal Pistol, so I mean, this list is definitely lacking in close combat weapons, and high power close combat weapons. So probably we have to score like pretty low in anti-vehicle, anti-monster. I mean, we have like 4 Sangri Guard swords, but I mean, it's probably, you know, swords only would armor on 4s, so even in an optimal situation, what you charge with all these guys, they're all still alive, you get 20 attacks, you probably hit like 18 of them, and then you're wounding on 4s, so it's like 9. I mean, it could be decent, but at the same time, it's a little bit questionable. I feel it's a little bit questionable, yeah. Mobility for the list is, I mean, considering, I was going to say you could put a lot of stuff in your Stormraven, but you've actually got no regular Marines. I mean, you could put the 5-man Sangri Guard in the Stormraven. The Death Company, I think, is too big for the Stormraven. So I guess the Sangri Guard and the Chaplain could go in the Stormraven, but again, it's a bullet magnet, so there's a risk there. Oh, I didn't even realise that there wasn't jump packs on these Death Company Marines. Jeez, okay. I always normally put it. So maybe he was going to put the Marines or the Death Company inside the Stormraven. I mean, that's a valid tactic as well, but like, I feel very scared running a Stormraven at the moment, just because it's only got that 3+ armor save and it's only got 14 wounds, right? So I guess mobility is probably a little bit lower as well. And then specialization, it's not too specialized. Maybe it's a little bit specialized at clearing infantry. Like, it's lacking. I don't know how reliable we can talk about like 1 twin link glass cannon with a weapon school of 3. You'll probably be profiled after turn 1, so you're probably going to have like 2 las cannon hits, and then you're going to wound other armor on 3s. So really, the Stormravens are just so expensive for what they bring, I feel like. And they don't survive. I mean, I have a Stormraven. I've run it once in 9th edition, and like I said, it survived turn 1 with 1 wound left. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a middle of the board list. There's definitely things that this list could do better, right? Like, we could take some better characters. We could definitely probably optimize this Death Company. We could take some more Sanguine Guard. And yeah, I mean, if it was me, I'd probably be tempted to flip out the Stormraven for like a couple of Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Did he mention a Redemptor? He mentioned something at the start. Keynote adding a Redemptor Dreadnought. Yeah, then I would add the Redemptor Dreadnought for sure. I mean, Redemptors are really cost point effective at the moment. If this was me, I'd probably I'd give these Death Company jump packs like somebody in the chat just said. Pedrog says he has a Vanguard detachment with no troops at the moment and it's currently undefeated. I mean, I have that list with a super heavy tank and it's currently undefeated, so I guess we're a bit unorthodox, but we do win games. I'd advise multi-melt on the Stormraven nose. It comes with free missiles that are anti-armor too. Yeah, I mean, I like the multi-melters of the Stormraven, especially now that they've got buffed and it's got so much movement. 20 Sangard, 10 Death Company, 10 Vanguard Vets with claws and shields. And I run the Sangri Guard as 2x5 and 1x10. Interesting. Yeah, Stormravens have suffered a lot in the 9th edition changes, yeah. Somebody said no jump packs. I missed that. So if this was my list and I had to make it better, I would probably drop the Stormraven. You could put in 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and you could give your Death Company jump packs, and yeah, I mean, that's probably the way that I would go. I'd give your Redemptors like the Macro Plasma Cannon and the Onslaught Cannon, or I'd give them 2x Onslaught Cannons. But I feel because you're lacking in anti-armor, having those Macro Plasma Cannons on both Redemptor would help make up that a bit. And then if the Redemptors do get into close combat, then they are very deadly. And what I'll do, is at the end of the stream, I'll post all these lists into the chat. Or sorry, not into the chat, into the comments down below. So if anyone wants to grab any of these lists and look at them in a bit more detail, then do you know what? I can actually post them in the comments right now. Okay, so as we go through, we'll put the lists into the comments, and you guys can keep up to date. Okay, next up is D King, and I think D King's actually submitted a list before, maybe a few months ago now. I mean, it's hard for me to remember all the lists that we've done. But okay, so list number 2 is D-King. If set on taking a flyer, I'd go 2 Storm Talons over a Storm Raven, says Northern Hero. I kind of think that I agree with that, just because it makes, like the enemy will end up splitting fire. The Storm Raven is just so big, and like it's, especially if you load it up with like a Death Company. When I ran it, I had it with I had the Librarian Dreadnought, I had Commander Dante and a Sanguine Guard inside the Storm Raven. And like it was just getting every single gun in the enemy team was going to shoot at that, right? Because they want to kill it before it can drop all that into the midst of them. And I want to say you can't even smoke screen the Storm Raven. So there's just not the Storm Raven. Yeah, I mean, like it has -1 to hit, but there's so many ways of getting +1 to hit that it's not. It's the -1 to hit is not a big deal, and with rerolls and stuff like that, yeah, and it's only toughness 7, so all in the current meta with all those multi-meltas running around, it's too easy for it to be wounded and killed. I think with the changes to terrain rules, cover, line of sight, flyers are just a lot more vulnerable now than they used to be because you could just always shoot at them. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, they are always able to be shot, right? After yesterday's stream, Ironclad Dreadnoughts are definitely on my mind with their Ironclad Assault Launcher, which gives an Assault Launcher keyword running up the board, if not Redemptors. Assault Launcher keyword does what? It stops enemies shooting Overwatch or something? It does mortal wounds when you charge for 1 CP, is that right? Interesting. Do you know what? I always forget to declare that my units are set to defend. Does anyone actually remember to do that? I mean, I guess that's a new rule in 9th edition. I just always forget it. Alright, so moving on next. D-King. So he says, hi, updating my list for next week due to the FAQ. If you could switch out the list for this one before I submitted. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Let's have a look at this then. And okay, so 2 extra relics. So we have an Apothecary who is part of the chapter command. So he's the Chief Apothecary, Selfless Healer of the chapter. Interesting. So this is a regular Apothecary, not even a Primaris Apothecary. I thought... Oh, right, yeah, because I thought a Primaris Apothecary was 80 points, but I guess because he's been upgraded, so it's just a regular Apothecary. I actually don't know the regular Apothecary stats. Give me 1 second. It's been so long since I ran a regular Apothecary. I mean, I run Sangri Priests and stuff, but never a regular Apothecary. Alright, here we go. So regular Apothecary is wounds 4 and just a 3+ save. I'm always just interested in like the wounds and the save relief, and I'm looking, like if you think about like a character like this that you just need to survive, right? Okay. So we have the company champion who has the Shield Eternal, which is fine. When we math hammered the Shield Eternal, though, it actually worked out that the armor Indominus made him more survivable. So maybe you want to rewatch that video that I made on the company champion, D-King. But Shield Eternal is a fine choice. And then we have 2 veterans, small squad, I guess. One with Storm Shield and Bolt Gun, and one with Storm Shield and Bolt Gun. I mean, pretty sure you could take a chainsword and you could have I don't know, I mean, like a 1 bolt gun shot per turn compared to like 5 attacks with a chainsword. I prefer the chainswords over like a bolt gun, but I mean, I guess it's up to you. I understand taking the Storm Shield to help protect your characters and stuff, but like, if you're using these guys to protect your characters, then ultimately they're probably going to have to get into melee at some point, right? So if they're in melee, I think a chainsword is just going to do a lot more work than a bolt gun. The Raven doesn't even get the anti-melta rule anymore. Yeah, assault launchers either do mortal wounds or cause Overwatch and -1 attacks. Yeah, I mean, I do not want to have to buy more Dreadnoughts right now, Highland Phoenix, but you're really starting to tempt me with these with these Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I mean, I guess that's what it is. Okay. Alright, so next up, Captain of the Bike. So this will be a regular captain, not like a Primaris captain, so that's pretty cool. And he has Artisan of War, Gift of Foresight, Adamantium Mantle, Angel's Exemplar, a Storm Shield, the Armor Indominus, the Thunder Hammer, and he is the Warlord. I'm confused why we use the Armor Indominus and... Oh, because he didn't make him the Chapter Master. Okay, because he's not the Chapter Master, he cannot have the Angel's Artifice. But I mean, that's fine. Okay, so that makes sense. So he's just a captain. He's not the Chapter Master, but he is an insanely powerful captain. I run company veterans with Storm Shields and Storm Bolters. If the characters get stuck in with the vets, they can sit on objectives behind a 2+, 4++. Yeah, I mean, how much are Storm Bolters on those captains? Are they 5 points? Surely not. Because I don't like how they made everything like 5 points. I like the old days where like a Storm Bolter would be like 2 points or something like that. Because this guy D-King has 2 points left over. Maybe we can swap out a Storm Bolter or something. So it's a decently strength captain, that's for sure. And then we have a Chaplain with the Mantra of Strength, the Canticle of Hate, Master of Sanctity, Icon of the Angels, so the rerolls of charges. He is the hero of the chapter and he is Wise Orator, so I mean this is a great character. I guess the reason he has a jump pack is because he's going to Deep Strike. For 10 more points you do get the one on the bike again. If you don't need him to Deep Strike, then you can definitely consider the one on the bike. And then we just have a Primaris Lieutenant. And this is the Indominus Lieutenant with the Master Crafted Power Sword, the Storm Shield, and the Neo Volkite Pistol. This is he's actually a decent character, this Lieutenant for 90 points. I did a video on him right after Indominus came out, and he's pretty survivable. And that Master Crafted sword, I think he can get like 7 attacks. So yeah, I mean he's a decent enough Lieutenant. I definitely ran him a lot at the beginning of 9th edition. Okay, and then Assault Intercessor Squads, and then regular Intercessor Squads. So, I mean, again, while this is fine, I guess, like, I can't say it enough. I say it every week, like, consider getting 1 box of Phobos units, or Phobos troops. And if you don't have any, ask your friends if you can proxy some of them. And then we've got 3 Blade Guards to sit probably in the middle of the map. We have a Redemptor Dreadnought with the Macro Plasma and the Onslaught, like I said, that was good. We have a shed load, 15 Relic Terminators with Combi Bolters and Lightning Claws, and Chain Fist, Lightning Claw, and Power Fist on the different captains. One of them is all Power Fist. Sorry, I missed that. Okay, so we've got one that could really crush vehicles. It seems strange that you didn't put... If this one's all Power Fist, surely you would want this captain to have the Chain Fist, because then this would be the one that would be like crushing armor and vehicles, and these ones would be grinding infantry. So, seems like maybe that Chain Fist is in the wrong group, but maybe it's not. And then, very small Sangri Guard again, 6-man. I mean, I guess... Like I said, 7 is good. 6 is probably not very small. But, I mean, when you've got 15 Terminators, then maybe that's absolutely fine. I mean, the one thing that I'm a little sad about is that you don't have any way to get the Blood Chalice, because you've just got the regular... You've got the regular Apothecary, which is fine. You can still do the healing, but he's got no way of putting your units into Assault Doctrine before turn 3. And I guess this guy has no jump pack or anything like that, so he's quite a bit less mobile and he can't Deep Strike, etc. And then 1 small Eradicator squad, just 3 men to take some pop shots, I imagine. Lightning Claws and Bad Angels are still pretty threatening to vehicles with their +1 to wound and the reroll the wound they get. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Maybe not so threatening against toughness 8 though, because you're just wounding on 5s and then re-rolling your 5s. I mean, that's still pretty low chance. Like, I guess let's be like... I should be able to do that math. I guess it's like a 50% chance to wound. It's actually just a little bit better than 50, maybe like 55. So I guess Lightning Claws are probably I mean, they're not bad. 55% chance to do a wound. They have decent AP. But yeah, I mean, if you've got a squad full of power fists, I feel like maybe that would be the one that you put the chain sword on. Stormbolters are pretty much 5 points across the board. Yeah, that's annoying, isn't it? Wow, a lot of Relic Terminators. Get some grenade harnesses on those sergeants. Again, grenade harnesses are probably going to be too many points for him unless you drop some weapons. So the plan is to try and contest midfield, taking Oath of the Moment and using some taking to the centre to threaten all the objectives. Okay. And to occupy the centre, I'm using Assault Intercessor, Blade Guard Vets, Eradicators, Redemptor, Librarian, Apothecary, Company Champion. I'll spend 1 CP on reroll hits on the Redemptor, placing all of these centrally will force the opponent to deal with them, and the Champion's 6-inch Heroic Intervention should help countercharges. Also make them target him if it looks like something scary comes in, -1 to hit, 2+4+5++. Yeah, so you mean you would use Angel Sacrifice here. The Bike Captain, the Sanguine Guard, or Distraction being placed obscured as one of my first deployments, hopefully baiting out his melee force to one side of the battlefield. They will be played very cagey, not really looking for charging until turn 3 at the earliest. I mean, it depends what you're up against. I mean, I feel like Sangri Guard and the Captain could probably still do work before turn 3, it just depends. I'll Deep Strike Terminators and the Chaplain. This will be the real punch of the army with Icon of the Angel. He'll come down using Commanding Oratory to give me the +2 and reroll charges on the Terminators. I really think I will need all my melee at point. I'll probably just use one of the Lightning Claw Terminators to bodyguard the Chaplain. If I can land on a point, even better. The Intercessors and the Company Champion, only really here for the extra elite slots, should have enough courage to screen the entire backline, especially with the Bike and Sangri hiding in a corner. I mean, I don't know if you'll have enough to screen your entire backline with just 2 Intercessor squads, but maybe. That's why I like Infiltrators so much, because they really do screen your entire backline. Changes I'm already considering: not upgrading to Master of Sanctity, his most important job, turn 2 Deep Strike instead, then upgrading to Death Company Lieutenant to have 2 scary characters in the centre, or perhaps fitting in Sangri Priest instead of the Lieutenant and Apothecary, using the leftover points for maybe more Sanguine Guard, upgrading to Infiltrators. Hope you see this in time. Thank you so much, Bud Angels Commander. Okay, a lot to think about in this list. Yeah, it's a 55% chance to wound on toughness 8, but I mean, Sanguine Guard have a 50% chance with swords to wound on toughness 8. So, and then Sanguine Guard are 2 damage a shot versus your Lightning Claws 1 damage a shot. And I think they have the same AP, right? Lightning Claws are -3, Sanguine Guard swords are -3. I have to check. Lightning Claws are... Lightning Claws are -2 actually, so Sanguine Guard are kind of probably still going to do better against toughness 8 vehicles, in my opinion. I mean, unless they have like Duty Eternal, then I guess the Lightning Claws might do better. How overkill is 2 Suppressor squads and a 5-man Eradicator squad? I mean, depends on how much the enemy has to shoot at, I guess. Yeah, I mean, you don't see that many toughness 8 models, that is very true. And I kind of agree that there's no such thing as overkill. Like, it's very important to do the kills. Like, you never want to leave units alive with models in them. I think that the list that I was working on had 1 Suppressor squad and 4 Eradicators. And I think that's probably as much as I think you would need there. I mean, the strength of Blood Angels really always is going to be your turn 3 onwards in close combat, right? So you just need a little bit of shooting to get you to that turn 3. That's usually how I feel about it. Potentially make 1 large Relic squad 10, which might be better to march up the board with a Priest behind them to heal and recover. Yeah, I mean, if you did make that 1 massive 10-man Relic Terminator squad, you could... it would be very easy to keep them alive with the Priest, right? Especially if the Priest can Deep Strike as well. Lightning Claws do grant an extra attack. But a Terminator normally only has 2 attacks, right? And a Sanguine Guard has 3 attacks, so they would actually, for the points, in that like Terminators are slightly more points than Sanguine Guard. It's kind of, I suppose it's kind of potato, really. Don't get me wrong, like I think Lightning Claws are fine. I'm making some Vanguard Vets with Lightning Claws right now. I just sprayed one like yesterday. Look, here's a Vanguard Vet with Lightning Claws. I need to get on this guy, catch him up to the other ones that I'm working on. But yeah, it's tricky, this list, right? Like, I guess probably you have, like, you either need to take a CP hit, I guess, and have a Vanguard attachment, and get that Apothecary moved into like a Sangri Priest. And maybe you have to lose some of the Terminators as well. But, I mean, that would give you some points left over to get some Phobos units. What else did he say? You could, if you did lose a Terminator squad, you could make a bigger Sangri Guard. Like, I generally think they're still one of our strongest units. They do really great damage. But, I mean, as Mark was saying in the chat, do you know what? The Lightning Claw Terminators aren't a bad choice either. Yeah, I think it's a decent list. Like, I like this little, like, chapter command company that you can do some stuff with. I get the idea of dropping down the Chaplain and doing the 7-inch charge. I mean, if we look at any dice, which would give us the actual percentage of that 7-inch charge with rerolls, it's an 83% chance, right? So I guess the advantage to having the 3 Terminator squads is if you are dropping that down, then you're probably going to get like 2 out of 3 of them make their charge. So I can see the advantage to that for sure. I try not to rely too much on deep strike charges happening the turn that the units drop down, because obviously there's always a chance to fail, so you have to sort of try and take that into your battle strategy. So, I mean, it's commonly why I probably wouldn't deep strike 600 points of units, or I guess this is maybe like 550 points of units. Like, I'd probably maybe deep strike maybe like 400, but one of the squads I would deep strike, I deep strike it in every battle, is like a 150 point throwaway death company that I deep strike them always in turn 2, and if I can always deep strike them into cover and then make a charge the following turn, I'm absolutely fine with that. And I just go after backfield. Take it easy, Highland. Thanks for tuning in today. It has combi bolters and 1 lightning claws. Oh, right, yeah, so I guess because it has the combi bolters and 1 lightning claws, your Sanguine Guard are actually going to get 1 more attack here still. So, okay, let's try and score this list up then, and let's make a couple of suggestions. So, OBSEC, I think it's like an 8-5, because we said you really need the Phobos units to feel like it's a 9 or above, or more troops. I mean, we've got a lot of chain swords. We have limited shooting across the entire list, and then, I mean, I guess the Terminators have a bunch of combi bolters when they drop down, and they do have lightning claws. So maybe anti-infantry horde, we're going to do like 8.5. It's not going to be the greatest, because if you do drop down 9 inches away and you have to clear some screens with these combi bolters, then it's going to make your charges even harder. So there is some merit to whoever said have the Terminators, 10 Terminators just walk up the middle of the board with the Sanguinary Priest. That might actually have a bit more merit. How does it deal against vehicles then? I mean, I guess probably be okay. You know, you've got that Redemptor Dreadnought, you've got we just talked about it, lightning claws that can 4 attacks and they wound toughness 8 on 5s. We've got a bunch of power fists here. We've got the Sanguine Guard, we've got the Eradicators, so I think it's a little bit higher against vehicles. It depends on how well your opponent's going to screen all these Terminators, right? You know, if you have an opponent that's not going to screen too well, then great. But if you have an opponent that's going to screen very well, you might have a problem. But still, against Sphericals, I think it's probably about the same, 8.5. Mobility is a tricky one, right? Because you, like what I just said, you could drop these down, and you would, if you get them down in a good place, you'll feel like you're very mobile and it won't be a problem. But if you don't get them down in the right place, then you'll struggle a little bit, because the only unit of guys you've got with jump packs, I think, are your Sanguine Guard. You do have your Chaplain, and I guess you do have your Biker, who is pretty good. But I mean, your Biker's role is not going to be wanting to go around claiming objectives, right? He's going to be wanting to jump in and kill characters or kill vehicles, and generally make a big nuisance of himself. And then specialization, like, I guess you are quite specialized, like I said, like, loads and loads of Terminators here. The problem is I've played one game where I ran 9 Terminators, and it felt like a lot of Terminators, and it also, it felt a lot like the Terminators are slow, right? They just move 5 inches, and it felt like, although they did some work in the game that I used them, they're just so slow. They're not really ever going to be able to move from objective to objective effectively and clear stuff out. And I think this is a huge strength of ours, right? I said, like, with the changes to turn 5 coming up, so you always score at the end of turn 5 as the second player. Stuff like Sangri Guard, Death Company, Vanguard Vets, all these units with jump packs still on the board are going to do a huge amount of work. So maybe it's a little bit lower. So I mean, I guess it's scored okay, D-King. And I think it's an okay list. Like, if I had to play it, yeah, I mean, I'd probably be okay with it. But I do think you're going to feel like you're not as mobile as like a normal Blood Angels force might feel. And I do feel like it's really going to be on the screening whether this list works for you, right? Like, in my army, or against my list, you know, like, I'm always running Infiltrators, so, like, good luck getting down anywhere that you could potentially make a charge with 3 squads of Terminators. Like, it just won't happen. Or if it does happen, it'll be in turn 3, and, like, at that point, it'll be really, I'll have had 2 really good turns against you beforehand. So, yeah, that's kind of what I think about that list. I think it's decent, but I think that I'd probably try and flavour it with a bit more Blood Angel stuff to try and push it on to be a bit stronger. And yeah, if you haven't watched my video on Phobos troops, then like I advise you to watch that so badly, because yeah, I mean, against armies that can really pressure your backfield, the Phobos troops are just amazing. Personally, I'm not going to run Terminators these days unless they are the Thunderhammer Storm Shield variants. Terminator strength these days is a resilience, so I'd want to double down on that. I kind of agree with that, Mark. Terminators with Thunderhammer Storm Shields coming down to kill like a key target. I mean, like, if you're just going to run Terminators with Combi Bolters and Lightning Claws, then could you not just do the same job with like Vanguard Veterans with a Storm Shield and Lightning Claws? And if you think about it, like a Vanguard Veteran with a Storm Shield and Lightning Claw is like, let me think, he's like 28 points per model, so he's 10 points less than a Terminator, but he has a better invulnerable save and 1 less wound, but then he moves 7 more inches. So I mean, I would rather probably take like 10 Vanguard Veterans. Let me just do the math. I think it was 195 times 2, so it's 390 for 10 Relic Terminators, and then for 10 Vanguard Veterans with Storm Shields and Lightning Claws, you're 290. Yeah, sorry, 290 times 10. No, it's 290. So he's basically 100 points cheaper. Sure, you lose 10 Combi Bolters, but could not use those 100 points if you need something. If you felt like you needed some shooting elsewhere. You know, 100 points just happens to be the cost of suppressors. We talked about suppressors yesterday, how one squad can actually stop 3 different enemy units firing Overwatch. I imagine that 10 combi bolters will do similar damage to one squad of suppressors. In fact, I probably think that suppressors will do more because you have the AP and you have the 2 damage a shot. So I guess we'll see. I run a unit of Thunderhammer Terminators and they're great for sure, and 2 units of Vanguard Veteran. Very nice. How do you run your Vanguard Veterans then, Dracula? Let us know. Okay. Right, so on to list number 3, guys. Oh, sugar. So list number 3 is from Emmanuel. I'm not going to try and say Emmanuel's last name, but that's who it's from, I guess. And we are looking at Greetings, brothers. A newfound Emperor follower here. Alright, cool. So this is a new player. I've used the biggest parts of this imposed vacation for theory crafting this list. This is like the 9th installment. Lots of... Oh, you should see my spreadsheet, Emmanuel. I've got like tabs and tabs and tabs of different lists. The battle plan is simple, like most... It's simple like the most difficult things. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but sure. The idea here is to send the mini Death Company unit with Forlorn Fury forward, screening for other incoming units, in the meantime softening a target. You know, sometimes this can be okay. I'm very wary if people lose their Death Company right at the start of the battle with Forlorn Fury. There is other options. Like I said, deep strike them in concealment in turn 2, make that guaranteed turn 3 charge. I mean, that could be very strong as well. So, Sangri Priest and Librarian starting both on the board for early support, and Cursors are here for midfield early pressure, and Infiltrators with a Helix Gauntlet are camping the backfield objective grabber with the added utility of screening from unexpected deep strikes. Yes, I like this straight away. I love the Infiltrators screening in the backfield. Makes your backfield feel like so secure you don't have to worry about it at all. Warlord leads a turn 1 charge, supported by the Veterans and the Judicar. Blade Guards on Impulsor for the centre, for stealing early objective from the enemies and camping in the centre like a wall. After disembarking, the Impulsor can be used as a screen. Yeah, I mean, I guess it can be used as a screen if you want it to be. Sanguine Guard are kept in reserve for Deep Strike. Hope to see your comments and criticism for the Emperor and Sanguinius. Alright, sick. Okay, so list number 3, and oh shit, I forgot to post list number 2 into the comments section. 1 second, let me just do that. Okay. Done. Cool. Okay, so list number 3. Alright, so 2 extra relics. Librarian with the Veil of Time, the Null Zone, the Psychic Fortress. Is the Chief Librarian, has the 4-staff jump pack, Tomb of Malachor to take the Shield of Sanguinius. This seems strange that you would take 2 shields. I mean, I get that one shield can be a bubble and one shield can be a ranged shield, but like maybe Unleash Rage would be better. From the Sanguinarius discipline or the Sanguinary discipline. I had a huge fight on Facebook yesterday about someone saying that you couldn't do this, but I still think it's right. You can take 3 powers from the Space Marine Codex and 1 from the Sanguinary Psychic powers, or vice versa. So you could take 3 Sanguinary Discipline and 1 Librarius. Veil of Time gives you that ability to do those always fight first charges, and Null Zone gets you turn off enemies and vulnerable saves. So a lot of good reasonings to pick this Librarian. No one watched that video I made on Librarian on Friday, by the way. Like it said, it actually popped up on YouTube and was like, people that haven't subscribed are not watching this video. So if anyone wants to share it at any point, feel free. Alright, Primaries Chaplin on a bike, who is the Wise Orator. He has the Angel's Exemplar, so that gives him also the Adamantium Mantle. He has the Litany of Hate, the Mantra of Strength, the Canticle of Hate, the Benediction of Fury. So this is generally a great character. Casting 2 litanies, he has this benediction that can do 4 damage a shot with Mantra of Strength. He has about 7 attacks, I think, with Mantra of Strength up. Yeah, do you know what? If you dropped one of these other shields, you could also take Might of Heroes to give this guy an extra attack and an extra +1 strength. I mean, I think he's already strength 6, so, I mean, making him strength 7 would mean that his benediction wounds armors on like 3s, for example, so it might be worth doing. And then the Sangri Priest, who is obviously the Chief Apothecary, Icon of the Angel, Selfless Healer. So this is very much the standard Sangri Priest character. Okay, and then 2 Incursor squads and an Infiltrator squad. I think this is about the best troop choices you can get right now. I also think that I've never actually picked the Helix Gauntlet myself, but I've heard really good things about it. And I guess being used by that one Infiltrator squad in the backfield, it probably makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, generally this is very good. A lot of options you can do with these Phobos units. If you haven't watched my video on Phobos troops, then you really should watch it. They are just by far the most survivable and also kind of have the most utility as well. And their rifles aren't bad at all. And in close combat, the Incursors have those light paired combat blades, and they do some serious work for Blood Angels as well. Okay, we have a Blade Guard veteran. This is 5-man, and the Sergeant has the Volkite pistol. We have our little 4-man Death Company. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 5-man Death Company. I think the points cost is wrong here. I thought Death Company were 25 points per model. Oh, yeah, I thought they're 25 points per model with jump pack. I'm convinced they're 25 points per model with jump packs. Let me double check that. Death Company Marines are 22 plus 3 for the jump back. Yeah, so you're 5 points out here, Emmanuel. I mean, not a big deal, I guess. But just worth noting that you're 5 points wrong here. And if you are running this little Death Company, I would totally try and get some sort of special weapon in there, like 1 Thunderhammer or 1 Power Fist. I think it helps a lot. Just in case they run into something that they're not used to fighting, or they don't usually fight, right? You never know what's going to happen in the battlefield. If they get charged by a character or something, if you have a Thunderhammer in there, you can just waste the character. I literally did it on the battle report on the channel last week against Necrons when he charged that one remaining Vanguard veteran, and he just nailed him with the Thunderhammer. It was quite glorious. Okay. What else we got? Judicar, who has the hero of the chapter, Visage of Death. Visage of Death is the one where, again, I've never run it, but I think it's the one where it removes OBSEC. There was a new relic in Space Marine Codex, right? Or is it a Warlord trait, maybe? Huh. Actually, maybe it's a Blood Angels one. Well, I've definitely not run it. Visage of Death. Oh yeah, so melee attacks against this unit are -1 to hit, and any enemies within 3 inches lose objective skewered. So it's fine, I suppose. If you're fighting like against a really strong objective skewered army, I mean, maybe that helps you steal some victory points. But yeah, I mean, maybe there's a better hero of the chapter that you could use, but maybe you don't need to with what you've got here. So yeah, I'm probably okay with this pick actually. And you've taken Rights of War on him as well, actually. How have you managed to do that? Oh, because so he's been given a relic. So you're making your units around him objective skewered and removing objective skewered from the enemy. How good is a Chapter Master, Artisan of War, Adamantium Mantle, Angel's Artifice, Bolt Pistol, Chapter Master, Jump Pack, Lightning Claw, Storm Shield, Angel's Exemplar, the Imperium Sword? I mean, it's pretty good, Julian. That's very similar to the one that I made on my video where I compared my Chapter Master against Dante. It's maybe just a little bit it's a little bit weaker than the one on the bike, right? Because on the bike you get +1 toughness, +1 wound, and I think that +1 toughness makes a big deal against small arms fire. It makes them almost impervious to -1 damage, really, or -1 AP damage. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's pretty good. Tomb of Malachor. This bearer knows 1 additional psychic power as from any discipline it has access to. Yeah, what are you asking about Tomb of Malachor? Is someone asking? Pedroig. My chapter master is nearly the same except for 2 things. He has a Thunderhammer instead of Lightning Claw and Gift of Foresight instead of Imperium Sword. Gift of Foresight on that character is actually really nice just because it works. It synergizes well with the Thunderhammer, right? Because you're always going to have some misses with the Thunderhammer, so getting to reroll one of those, and then once you've rerolled that one, you're pretty much always going to wound with the wounding on 2s. So then being able to reroll your wounds, it synergizes really nicely, I think, with Thunderhammer, Gift of Foresight. And the ability to reroll 2 saves in your turn is pretty crazy when you're already, like I said, you already ignore -1 AP. So on -2 AP, you still save on 3s. On -3 AP, you save on 4s, and then you can reroll. You can reroll the free save you get from Gift of Foresight, and you can also CP another one. And then if they do get through that, then you have your Adamantium Mantle for your 5+. It's generally, I like it a lot. So it's not bad. And I actually have been running, I plan on running Imperium Sword on a Death Company captain who is taking the Teeth of Terror. So he gets 10 attacks. If you give him the Imperium Sword, he would get 11 attacks, 2 damage a shot. 2 damage a shot, -2, and it would be strength 6 with Imperium Sword. So you still wound those toughness 5 enemies on 2s. We then have a Sanguine Guard, and it's 2, 4, 6. It's a 7-man. We have an Infernal Pistol. We have a couple of Power Fists. We have a large Vanguard Veteran Squad, which is 2, 4, 6, 8. And they all have Lightning Claws and Storm Shields. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But he's given Quake Bolts to the Sergeant. I think if you take Lightning Claws and a Storm Shield, you aren't going to have a gun. Because I think you have to replace your pistol with the melee with a Storm Shield, and you replace your bolt gun with the other one, right? So this slightly doesn't work. But I mean, it's not a big deal to fix it. Vanguard Veterans. Any model can have their bolt pistol replaced with one of the following: a pistol or a melee weapon or a storm shield. Any number of models can have their chainsword replaced with one of the following: a melee weapon or a storm shield. Yeah, so you're not going to have a pistol. So you can't take Quake Bolts on the Sergeant. But I mean, what you could do is you could probably just drop your Storm Shield on the Sergeant and keep your bolt pistol, I guess. Or can you take a combi weapon? No. Well, then I would probably the Lightning Claws. Take a Relic Blade, maybe a Relic Blade and a bolt pistol. There's almost no need to have the Storm Shield on the Sergeant, right? Because you just take all the wounds on these guys with Storm Shields into the Sergeant as the last guy alive. My Sergeant has a Relic Blade and an Infernal Pistol, but I don't do this Quake Bolts stratagem. But I mean, I understand the logic behind it. It's probably actually not a bad idea at all, really. But yeah, I mean, you're not. If you have a Storm Shield and a melee weapon, you're not going to have a pistol, so you're going to have a problem there. Good evening, Gitley. Thanks for tuning in. Also, if you don't want to spend all the points on a Thunderhammer, a Relic Blade is a really good compromise. Yeah, Relic Blade can't be taken by the character on the bike, which is a little bit annoying, but it can be taken by a captain with a jump pack. However, another option actually is the Archangel Shard. So you could have a bike captain with a sword that does 2 damage. It is -4, And then if you end up fighting against Chaos or Demons of Chaos, it does a lot more damage. Against Mortarion, for example, that Archangel Shard is going to be really good because it's 4 damage a shot. Check out the Crusade Relic rules. There's an Encarmine Warblade. This is sick. Would love it in match play. It would have been so nice. How you guys getting that sweet Blood Angel's helmet by y'all's name? It looks super sweet. Dracula or Dracul maybe is how you say it. There's a join button on YouTube underneath the video. I think it's on every single page of mine, or every single video of mine. You should see a join button, and if you join, you get some perks. You get there's a little video you can watch with all the perks you get from joining, and yeah, I mean, if you are interested in it, I would appreciate it. I really love recruiting members. It sort of helps. It just really helps the channel out. Okay, and then we've got Fast Attack. We've got 2 Inceptors. Oh, of course, we've got 3. Sorry, 2 and 2. It's 2 and a Sergeant. Of course, it is. So we've got 3 Inceptors with plasmas, and then we've got 3 Eradicators with the heavy melter rifles. I guess you missed in the FAQ. These guys went up 15 points. So you've paid. They're 45 points now for the version with the regular melter rifles. The versions with the heavy melter rifles are basically 50 points a model. But the heavy melter rifles are, point for point, some of the most damaging weapons that you can get in the game right now, because they do that extra flat 2 damage, and in half range it's an extra flat 4 damage. So, heavy melter rifles are really, really strong. And then you have an Impulsor with a shield dome, which makes sense if you want to. I think you said you were going to transport your 5 Blade Guards up the battlefield. So I kind of like this list quite a lot, actually. It feels like a sort of list that I would run. I mean, I might make some small changes, but yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like a list I would run. I'm not seeing the join button. We'll keep looking for it. Someone on mobile yesterday was saying that they couldn't find the join button. It should just be right under the video, like where it basically says Blood Angel's Commander and the number of subscribers. You should see a join button. If you don't see it on mobile, then you need to have a look on your PC. On your PC, it's like I could show you, right? Like on my. So obviously this is the stream we're watching. Here's the join button right here next to Blood Angel's Commander right here. Obviously you wouldn't see analytics and edit video because this is my channel, but you should see that join button. Okay. Yeah, so let's think about this list for a minute. We've got the Utility Librarian, we've got the Chaplain on the bike, who we've already talked about a lot, is very strong. We've got the Sangri Priest again, who is really strong. We have a good amount of troop choices, 3 Phobos units. We have a nice big Blade Guard for holding the centre. We have a throwaway Death Company. I would really love to see a special weapon with that Death Company, like just a Thunderhammer or a Power Fist. I would love to see that in that group. Then we have a decent 7-man Sanguine Guard, and we've got this Vanguard Veteran Squad with the Lightning Claws and the Quake Bolts, so they can get their +1 to hits. Then we have 1 squad of Inceptors with plasmas, and then 1 Eradicator squad. So yeah, I mean, this is a very. He said that he was new, so for a new player, I'd say this list is pretty awesome, and it's kind of got that vibe of like a very highly competitive list. Used right, this list could be very effective, and I'll tell you right now, the list that I'm working on for my first game post-lockdown is really not a million miles away from this. In fact, I mean, I think, like, I don't have a Judicar, and I don't have the Inceptors, but I think I have a Redemptor, and I think I have some Suppressors. But apart from that, I mean, the lists are very, very similar. So, alright, let's go ahead and score. Objective holding, like we said, if we have 3 Phobos units, I like to score a 9 for objective holding. I generally think 3 Phobos units are very cool. Even McLeish, how you doing? Just checked my phone. If you close chat, you can see the join button next to the subscribe button. Thank you for shouting out that, McLeish. Appreciate that. Okay, anti-horde effectiveness. I mean, it's not the most anti-effectiveness against horde, but I mean, you do have things that you can deal with hordes, right? A lot of lightning claws in there. Death Company with chain swords. You can use the Phobos units tactically to screen, and we can shoot with the Phobos units. So I think like it's not the strongest against hordes, but I think it will do fine. So it's hard, it's hard to have a perfect score in every category. And then for anti-vehicle. So we've talked already on the stream how good Lightning Claws can be for killing toughness 7 and 8 vehicles today. We know that Sanguine Guard can do that as well. Something that I guess doesn't get mentioned all that often on stream is the Judicar's sword is an absolute badass. Let's just double check the Judicar's sword because it's been a little while now since I ran the Judicar. I haven't actually ran him since they changed it, so... You remember when he first launched, he was able to do like the 6-inch temper mortis, and then they changed it to 3 inches. But his sword is a badass, and it's strength +3, so that's strength 7, -3 AP, 2 damage, and unmodified rolls of 6s do 1 mortal wound. So, he's got 4 attacks, so 6 attacks on the charge. So probably going to end up doing an average 1 mortal wound every time he fights. And strength 7 -3. I mean, that's generally very strong as well. Blade Guard veterans, I mean, those mastercrafted power swords can chew through vehicles as well. I mean, I guess you might come unstuck a little bit against some dreadnoughts, but I mean, against Iron Hands, I think I killed a Leviathan dreadnought with 5 Blade Guard veterans. They were backed up by a priest, and the priest was doing some healing on them. But it definitely helps. And then we have the really nice Chaplain, who can do a lot of damage. And little question mark on the psychic powers. I definitely wouldn't take 2 shields. I would pick 1 of the shields. But I mean, overall, this is generally a very, very strong list. So I think for anti-vehicle monster, we're going to go for a 9 there. Maybe if we had some Thunderhammers in it, we could have pushed 9.5. Mobility, an Impulsor with Blade Guard in it. Death Company, Sanguine Guard, Vanguard Veterans. I think that there was just a small mistake in that the Death Company were 5 points undercosted. And the Phobos units, again, are super mobile with their Guerrilla Ops is the name of the stratagem. I forget the name of the Guerrilla Tactics, Guerrilla Ops, something like that. Where is it? Guerrilla. One second. I mentioned it in my phone. Guerrilla Tactics. Yeah, Guerrilla Tactics. I was thinking it's Guerrilla Ops. I don't know. So, use the stratagem in your movement phase when a Phobos unit from your army is more than 6 inches away from an enemy model is selected to move. If this mission you are playing uses strategic reserves, place that unit directly into strategic reserves. So basically it gives you the option to redeploy your Phobos units as well. So mobility in this list is very strong as well. I think it's like a 9. Like I said, you're probably never going to get 10s across the board. So I mean, like I said, this is very close to competitive list, or a highly competitive list right now. And specialization, I don't think it's going to struggle. In general, like, I don't think it's too specialised. Maybe it's a tiny bit more melee focused than I normally play myself, because I like about 450 points of shooting. This list has I don't really include squads in that, right? So, like, I guess that's why in my list I have Suppressors, a Redemptor, and the Eradicators. But, yeah, I mean, I have some issues with the Inceptors in that I hate plasma weaponry, and I just hate it because you can never really fire it reliably on high power. The only plasma I fire reliably on high power is the plasma on the Redemptor Dreadnought, because the Redemptor Dreadnought has 13 wounds, so I really don't mind taking a mortal wound or 2 on the Redemptor Dreadnought. Whereas unlike the Inceptors, you just can't risk firing on high power unless you have some way around you to reroll 1s, and that's not always the easiest thing to have available wherever they're deep striking in. So, specialization will give you an 8.5. But, don't, I can tell you right now, Emmanuel, that's probably going to be highest score of the day. It's probably, there's very little you would need to change here. I mean, if I fought your list with my list, I think it would be a very, very even fight. I know that some people play these lists at the highest tier, and they generally do very, very well with them. So, as you're a new player, I mean, there was a couple of little issues in the list, right? But as a new player, like generally, that is a very, very strong list. And I think if you've been working out during lockdown, my advice to you would be to play it post lockdown, and before you consider making any changes, play it like a few times, and I hope it goes really well for you. Julian asks, is 500 points of assault squads too much? When assault squads do actually mean assault squads, like you don't mean fast attack assault squads. Do you mean like Sangri Guard, Death Company? I want to hear and see predictions before it has its games. Oh, right, you're talking about, I would love to see you review the Blood Angels list being used at the Las Vegas Open next week, maybe in a special episode. Yeah, we could look at it. Trying to think if I have time. It's next weekend, is it, Mark, that it's been run? I see a lot of people say that, but the guy playing it has won multiple really big tournaments. He must be onto something, I figure. The problem is to get all out of Sanguine Guard, they need to be close to Warlord. Getting 3 10-man squads in range means they're bunching up and giving up mobility. Great for taking out heavies, but Massacre Ball does not tend to work out well for us. Good evening, Blitz. How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I mean, I have seen that list that the guy is running at the Las Vegas Open, and I did. It's not the sort of list I want to play or I enjoy playing, man. But the thing that I've said this to Highland Phoenix, who often hangs out in the chat in these streams. Terrain is super important if you're going to run a list like that, right? I mean, you saw the game on my channel last week against the Necrons where there wasn't any terrain on any of the objectives. So, I mean, fortunately that Necron list didn't have a lot of long-range firepower, but if you were coming up against a list that had a ton of long-range firepower, as a Blood Angels player, you could potentially lose like 2 of those squads of Sangri Guard before you even get into melee distance. And, I mean, in some of these tournaments, the terrain is very, very dense, and that helps Blood Angels a lot, but like, in your casual games that you're playing at your house or at someone else's house, how dense is the terrain? Because if it's not tournament level dense, and also, I feel like when I play against my friends, see if I wanted to make every board super dense, they would just be annoyed because they know how much of an advantage it is that Blood Angels in close combat win games, right? So like if I'm just going to be like, oh, I'm not happy, I want more terrain on the board, they're just going to be like, John, you know, they're not going to call me cheating about it, but they're going to be upset that like I want to just put more and more terrain on the board. Like especially if it's like an all shooting list, they're going to want some firing arcs, and it feels like a really, unless you've got someone totally impartial putting the terrain on the board, I find it's difficult to justify that level of terrain. So I don't know how much terrain they need to going to put on that Las Vegas board. It would be really interesting if there was a screenshot of a previous Las Vegas Open board so we could see the levels of terrain, Mark. But like if, you know, I am happy to look at that list. We could probably look at it at the end of today's stream maybe. Or, yeah, I mean, we could put it in for Tuesday's video, but I find it so subjective, right? When it's like you guys see some of the boards I play on and how open they are, and like there's literally no cover on 4 out of the 5 objectives. Like I just don't see that happening in some of the high level tournaments, which is fine. But like, I guess I tend to not want to advise someone and be like, yeah, it's you know, run 30 Sangri Guard, you'll have a great time, and then they go play against their friend and there's no terrain on the map and all 30 Sangri Guard get killed before they make a single charge or something like that, right? Official Games Workshop guidelines for terrain in the current rulebook is 1 piece of terrain per 12 by 12 inches square. Yeah, I mean, some of the boards that I'm seeing are way more than 1 piece of terrain. by 12 or 12 inches. That is actually pretty sparse, 12 inches by 12 inches. That's like... I was going to say, like, if you took two of the codexes and opened them and put them one above the other. So that's one piece of terrain in that size of area, I would guess. Because I feel like an A4 sheet... How big is it? A piece of A4 in inches? A4 in inches. Okay, so it's like... That really is quite... That's more dense than I thought it was. You know that? So yeah, I mean, I never play on a map that dense, honestly. And I feel like we have a pretty competitive meta. And you know what? In my meta, people have been to tournaments where they say that like there has been less terrain in the tournament than on the board that we play on. So we're probably putting like half a piece down in the required guidelines, and they've been to tournaments where it's been less, like way less, like a third of what we play on. So you're talking like, yeah, if you have a full melee list up in that, you're gonna have real problems, right? I've seen folk try cheesing out with a bunch of pipes or hills. Yeah, I mean, I guess. Okay, let's have a look at this then. So this is a list from James Spencer, and he called it Ezekiel's Heirs. Hopefully I said that right. So this is similar. Librarian, Null Zone, Psychic Fortress, Chief Librarian, and the Tomb of Malachor, and he has Rights of War on this Librarian. I don't know why he didn't... He's missing a power in that he can take one more power here, but I'm sure he knows that you wouldn't take the Tomb of Malachor and the Chief without that, so that's +1 power. We then have the Primaries Chaplin on the bike, and very similar to the last one, except he didn't take... No, he did take the Benediction of Fury, and he has the Wise Orator. He didn't take the Adamantium Mantle on this guy, that was the only difference. And then we have the Sangri Priest with the Chief Apothecary and the Visage of Death, and he is the Warlord. And then Troops, Infiltrators, Intercessors. So again, this is a decent troop choice. I feel with 2 squads of Infiltrators, you can be very defensive and screen out a lot of your deployment zone. So I think that should be absolutely fine to do. I mean, overall, you'll be able to screen out any sort of deep strike, and I guess 1 squad of Intercessors you might push forward with the auto bolt rifles and I guess the grenade launcher. I'm not sure I would spend 5 points on the grenade launcher. I mean, like, I always feel like if you have to do a frag or crack grenade, you're not really going to do much with it. I feel like I'd try and spend these 5 points like an Infernal Pistol on a Sangri Guard or a Death Company, but I mean, maybe that's worth mentioning. We then have Blade Guards, 5 man, Company Veterans, Storm Shields and Chainswords, Death Company, 10 man, with 2 Thunderhammers, Sanguine Guard, 10 man, with swords and 1 Infernal Pistol, Sanguine Guard, 9 man, again, with swords and 1 Infernal Pistol, an attack bike with a heavy bolter, and then Eradicators. This would have been submitted probably before the FAQ, so the Eradicator points are just out. And then James says, strategy, general game plan. Secondary is good for the list. Engage, multiple jump units, concealed positions, fast moving attack bite. Company vets allow for high scores on this. Oath of Moment, multiple small units, attack bites, company vets, make scoring 2 for the center easy. If going first, enemy has to divert lethality away from threats to remove scoring units. Yeah, that's very true. Deploy scramblers. Again, company vets and reserve make this very easy. And against your full boss units with the redeploy make this very easy as well. And then domination, great for pairing with oath on a mission with a central objective. Yes, that's very true. Relentless Assault is a great pick against any slow-moving army that doesn't have many units, so will be likely placed in reserve. Going first, you can throw Death Company forward with Forlorn Fury to start scoring this on turn 1. I mean, yeah, you could. I would almost just be happy to wait, though, and just drop the Death Company down in turn 2. Infiltrators with the Vanguard Vets can entirely screen out your deployment zone in any mission if needed to. Matchup dependents are still good picks. Bring it down, Titan Hunter, raise banners. Yeah, it's nice that you actually included some secondary thoughts. The list benefits from going second would be best played doing so. There are adequate line of sight and blocking terrain to be able to hide the hardest hitting combat units from enemy fire. Yeah, I mean this is exactly what I was just saying about the Sanguine Guard. If you can hide them all and there's plenty of terrain, then you're in a good situation, right? I think some tournaments just don't have enough to outfit the table correctly. Yeah, that's very true, Origin. And I guess if you were going to take a full melee army to a tournament like that, you'd be very sad. You would have a bad experience, right? Blood Angels Commander would be good to see after you've got through a few more weeks of lists. If you did a short video of the top 10 lists you've scored and what their list was scored, yeah, that could be cool as well. And tournaments don't like folks bringing their own terrain because of broad swath of quality and ruling issues. Yeah, I mean, it can just depend on the funding level of your tournament. That is also very true. And the grand tournaments are always great with terrain. Yeah, I mean, that'll be probably why Blood Angels run so competitively in those big tournaments, but in like little smaller tournaments they can struggle. I've been to Birmingham to the convention centre for X-Wing, but haven't made it to Warhammer. Yeah, I made it to Games Workshop once a couple of years ago, but yeah, I mean, I need to get back. Priest and Librarian stick with a smaller unit of Sangri Guard. If using Forlorn Fury to turn one charge when going first, trail back a single model to be in range of the Sangri Priest for buffs. The 10-man unit of Sangri Guard can start in reserve. You've got no way of buffing rerolls in this list, though, right? Yeah, okay. If there's not enough terrain to hide everything behind, if your opponent doesn't have enough units to effectively screen out. Chaplain can be used either as a delivery mechanic for Deep Strike and Sanguine Guard if taking while at stand, or throw a unit to score centre if both. Infiltrators use a screen, yep, and CP best spent on defensive stratagems. Smokescreen, Transhuman, Refusal to Die, and Yielding in the Face of the Flow. Always keep 1 CP for a charge reroll. And yeah, I always try and keep 2 CP for interrupt in close combat if you need it. With the new AFAQ dropping to make up them points increased Eradicators, I would drop Infernal Pistols from both Sangri Guard as well as Grenade Launcher from the Assault Intercessors. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is very, very similar to the list we just ran. However, this is just mixing in. So dropping like the Inceptors, bringing in more Sanguinary Guard, and then yeah, I mean, I guess it's dropping the Vanguard Veterans for more Sanguinary Guard. You know, I like the utility of running both Sanguinary Guard and Vanguard Vets, but I guess the Blade Guard Vets here are kind of the whole point of that. So, again, this is a highly competitive list, I guess, and this is going to be similar to that list that was mentioned for the tournament that's coming up, the Las Vegas tournament. And, again, it's a fine list. It's going to be very competitive. It's going to be a little bit terrain dependent again, but you know, that's just the way that the cookie crumbles, I guess. And it's so I guess we'll in the future. I don't know what I'm going to do about the terrain issues, right? I guess like if you want to run a full melee list or a very, very heavy melee list of Blood Angels, then by all means go for it. However, I don't think I ever play with those rules of 1 piece of terrain per 12 by 12. We're probably more like 1 piece of terrain by like maybe like 18 by 18. So maybe like I guess we've got about 2/3 of the regular terrain. Maybe what we'll do on the channel is that I'll try a couple of games where we actually basically load up the board with 12 by 12 and we'll see how I do with like a much more melee list. But yeah, I mean, I don't think my friends are going to have much fun playing against that because there's a lot, you know, like a lot of the Blood Angels tactics and stuff require you to be like consolidating correctly and piling in correctly and making key moves for like engaging all fronts and stuff like that. So if you're doing all that smartly, then and there's loads of terrain and they can't get good firing arcs or good firing solutions on your guys, you're gonna score a lot of points. So troops, I guess, we're probably, I think 2 infiltrators. You know, like I've never done 8.75, but I think that's where we are. It's really up there. The 2 infiltrator squads. You mentioned how defensive this list was going to be, so I mean that's absolutely fine. We also talk a little bit about anti-horde and anti-infantry a lot. And we are low on shooting, I guess, but I mean, we do have a ton of Sangri Guard with those Angelus Bolters that are generally pretty good at killing low tier units. Your Infiltrators also have those auto wounding guns. I mean, I guess we can kill the hordes, fine, but I mean, like in terms of being able to clear screens, then I mean, maybe you're going to have some problems as well. And I mean, I guess that's why I don't always fully get these lists that put so much emphasis on your Sangri Guard, because I play against a guy that runs Death Guard, you know this, and he always brings shitloads of Nurglings, right? And now I believe he said he could bring 30 Poxwalkers for like 260 points or something. So he's just going to have so many Nurglings and Poxwalkers shat out all over the board. It's going to be super hard to engage the targets you need to engage. So without like a decent amount of firepower, like I'm not entirely sure how you're doing that. So I mean, I guess that's why I like to see 400, 450 points, maybe even 500 points of shooting. So we'll say like 8.5 here. How are we going to do against vehicles and monsters? I mean, if we can get in against them, then we're going to do great. We got the Thunderhammers and the 10 Death Company. We got the Blade Guard Veterans again, and we got 2 big Sanguine Guard. Our hard hitting Chaplain, the Librarian with his various buffs and stuff. So I mean, I guess this is very similar to the last one. This might even be, I'd say the mobility is the same because we did lose the Impulsor, but we did gain like another large squad of Sangri Guard. So mobility is generally very good. And then specialization, I kind of want to say it's the same 8-5, score it down just ever so slightly. Because, like I said, if the enemy is going to run a ton of Nurglings, I don't know how often you guys play against Nurglings. But, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure if you shoot... Let me think about this for a second. You have 18 Sangri Guard, all with... was it 18 or was it 19? Sorry. No, we've got 2 Infernal Pistols. So we've got 17 Sangri Guards. So they get 2 shots at a time. And then they hit on 3s. So we hit 22 times. And then we wound on 2s. We hit... so we have 18 wounds against the Nurglings. The Nurglings feel no pain on 5s. And they save on 5s. So... They save on 5s, which means we cut off a third of these. So that many go through. And then they feel no pain on 5s, so we cut off another third. So, like, you shoot... What was that? You shoot 17 Sanguine Guard at Nurglings, and you kill 2 Nurglings, because each base has 4 wounds, right? Yeah, the Angelus Bolters are better than standard Bolters. But that just, you know, if you need to clear out a screen of, like... Last time I played Death Guard, I think he had 8 Nurglings in front of, like, the Poxwalk... No, not the Poxwalkers. The Death Guard or the Plague Spitters or whatever it was that I needed to engage with. He had, like, 8 Nurglings in front of the... No, 6 Nurgling bases. So, I didn't even have this many Sangri Guard, but you're basically saying, like, 17 Sangri Guard can kill 2 bases of Nurglings. It's kind of disgusting how survivable the Nurglings are for how cheap they are. And this is why I generally run a decent amount of shooting in my list. Because you need to punch enough of a hole through those Nurglings so you could actually go and charge what you need to charge, right? Killing 2 of them is maybe going to punch you a hole through. But, I mean, it's questionable, I guess. But the one interesting thing with Nurglings is if your weapon does more than 1 damage, then they don't get to use their Feel No Pain, or they don't get an armor save. One of the 2, I can't remember which one, but it's like it makes them half as survivable if your weapon has more than 1 damage. What do you mean hard to judge the specialization? So I guess what I'm talking about in specialization is like, are they too focused on one thing, right? Like, is it an army? Like, if your army could only kill infantry and couldn't kill tanks, for example, maybe you'd get like a 5 for specialization. Or if your army was like all psychers and you couldn't do anything but psychic, then you would get a low score for specialization. So I mean, 8.5 is saying it's generally decent, and I think it would be okay. But like, you will run into some issues against some armies, where they can have a ton of low point units, like I just talked about with Death Guard, with Nurglings, and I have such a huge rivalry against the guy that plays Death Guard, right? Like, we're always trolling each other. I have one more Death Guard battle to put up on the channel that was filmed a little while ago, but and in that battle I actually lost a lot more units than he did, but I took home the victory in points, I believe. Or maybe it was very similar, like it didn't feel like a solid win at all for me. But you know, and the reason behind that was that I couldn't get my Sanguine Guard or I had a Sangri Guard, and I think I either had a Chapter Master or a Chaplain on a bike, and I had a Death Company, and I just couldn't get them in against the targets that I needed to be. You know, there was too many Poxwalkers, there was too many Nurglings, so I ended up having to charge into Nurglings, and while I did kill all the Nurglings, it just left all my units exposed. He then came in and like used the Death Guard version of Flamers, and they're so nasty, right? Like, you get 2d6 shots, so you had 2 of them, so it was like 20 odd shots. They're like toughness or strength 5, so they wound you on 3s. They auto hit, so 4d6 auto hits, wounding on 3s, and then they're like -2 or -3 or something. So it was like your Sangri Guard all of a sudden are just saving on 4s or 5s, and like, I want to say that like, out of an 8-man squad of Sangri Guard, I had like 2 left, and all they'd managed to kill was Nurglings. The only reason I won the battle was maybe he was too defensive with his screening. But it's something to generally be aware of if you are going to run a list like this. I mean, it'd be great against a lot of armies, right? Like if the army doesn't have the access to something like that, or if they aren't screening particularly well. So yeah, James, this is a fine list. I can see, you know, like it's similar to a high level competitive list. It would be played and it would be successful. But I do feel like there is, if you did come up against an army like that, like the Death Guard, I guess you would have to be very, very smart or clever with both your positioning and you know, how you play the list. So that's, I mean, I guess that's generally my thoughts on that. But I mean, it's hard to really put any single fault onto that list. Is that a whirlwind or two I smell coming in Blood Angels Commander's list shortly? Yes, like I said, the list that I have made, it's actually a no Forge World list, and it's going to have a Suppressor Squad and a Whirlwind and an Eradicator Squad. So, I mean, that runs right in at like 400 points. The Eradicators were like, I guess 200 points now, because I put 4 of them. Suppressors are 100 points, and then your Whirlwind's like 130, maybe 135 or something. So 435 points. Can you use Forge World minis in tournaments? Usually it's up to the tournament organizer to allow or not allow Forge World minis. I have experience with both, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I guess just be aware of that. I do like the Whirlwind as well, just because of the ability to make your opponents fight last. Again, that's going to be super critical against Death Guard, because they have that new ability where even if you have the ability to fight first, you will still fight last. I think it's some sort of rotten flesh stratagem or something. I actually run rapiers with quad mortars for cheap and indirect anti-infantry fire, but the suppressing fire stratagem is just too good not to take a whirlwind instead. You know what? I have a rapier cannon with the quad mortars as well, but yeah, I mean, the whirlwind is generally quite good. What do you run on it? The Vengeance or the Castellan launcher? Okay, so I guess that is James's list, and while it is a very solid list, I guess there are just some things to be aware of. And I mean, I could play a list like that. I just feel like, I guess maybe that comes down to the fact that we don't have as much terrain on the table as maybe some of the other people or some of these tournaments. So if we don't have as much terrain, then there's definitely some room for a little bit more shooting. Okay, final list for today then is my side. 2609, and he says, really appreciate your work, would love it if you could watch over my list. I've used the Vanguard vets with this loadout because I've built them like that, maybe a bit too much power shields. The rest is relatively self-explanatory. The troops and the dreadnoughts for holding objectives in the backline and midfield, the characters ideally deploy behind cover, the Death Guard to throw away where needed, and the Sanguine Guard and the Vanguard vets as flexible deep strike. Also, the suppressors are an extra range punch, and because I have the models and I like them. Yeah, I mean, I like the suppressor models too. I think they're super cool. But I could switch out the suppressors with a Leviathan Dreadnought with double storm cannons for more durability and flexibility. Do you know what? I don't even rate the storm cannon anymore. I actually think the grav pulse is the better choice on the Leviathan. Unless you're dedicated to just wiping out infantry, I think the grav pulse is definitely a better choice. And I want to use what I already have model-wise because I don't own Inceptors with plasmas yet, for example. Sorry for my bad writing, I'm German. No problem, dude, I'm bad at speaking, so hopefully we got through that and everyone understands it. Always yes, official GW tournaments, if not legends, got to keep that cash coming in. Yes, so Forge World are generally allowed in tournaments. Blood Angels Commander depends if I have 10 points spare after I've run the rest of my army. If so, Vengeance, otherwise Castellan. Yeah, that makes sense. Hail Sanguinius, I have a Blood Angels army for 20 years and I've passed them on to my son, and he is asked, could he have them as his army? That is very kind of you. But I have discovered Iron Spiel Blood Angels successors, and being Irish, a Gallic Blood Angels chapter sounds good to me. Okay, why everybody throwing away the Death Company? See, I mean, maybe I use the wrong term when I say throw away the Death Company. What I mean with my Death Company is I look for the weakest objective in the backfield of my opponent and go after that with my Death Company. And I always try and do that as early in this game as possible. Like a Death Company will generally do a lot of damage against like a intercessor squad. I mean, we can probably just do the math real quick, right? So if you have like 5 Death Company with chain swords, you get 30 attacks. So you hit on 3s and then you wound on 3s. So straight away you cause the enemy to take 13 -1 saves. Well, 13 -1 saves in turn 2 would be a failure rate of 0.5. So you take 6.5 wounds off a intercessor squad. If it's turn 3, then you would take 9 wounds off an intercessor squad, or like 8.5. So when I say throw away a Death Company, I mean drop the Death Company in the backfield in turn 2, in turn 3 move them in, make that charge, and then yeah, I mean, like, I'm not throwing them away. I guess, like, I'm throwing them into objective, and usually I'm killing everything that's on the objective, forcing my opponent to hurt on their primaries. At that point, if the Death Company die, then I'm okay with that, as long as I've denied the opponent having that primary points for like 1 or 2 turns. And I guess that's what I mean by throw away. So I'm throwing them away, but I'm strategically throwing them away. And you know what? If the opponent isn't in their backfield and isn't there to deal with them, then they're not throwaway at all. They can jump off and go do some work elsewhere. Anyone ever heard of the Iron Spears chapter? I have not heard of Iron Spears. Are they in the new Blood Angels book? You'll have to let me know which page they're in, because I haven't checked them out. Okay. Alright, so Finalist then. We have a Chaplain, Mantra of Strength, Canticle of Hate, Litany of Hate, Master of Sanctity in the jump pack. And then we have Librarian Dreadnought, who is the Chief Librarian. Slight mistake here in that he cannot... Dreadnoughts cannot take relics, so I guess you have to remove that relic. But he can take the Warlord trait, so he does have Iron Resolve, and he does have a Meltagun. We then have the Sangri Priest, and he is the jump pack, Selfless Healer, all the standard stuff here. Only his Adamantium Mantle, so he can ignore wounds on 5+. That seems a bit strange, because it wouldn't stack with a 6+ from being the Priest, right? So, I mean, I think there's better options there, and there's Armor Indominus, or there's maybe Artificer Armor you could take. But generally, I want to say as well, I love the picks on the Librarian Dreadnought, Wings of Sanguinius, Shield, Quickening, and the Iron Resolve. I think are all very strong picks. I like him with his 9 wounds and his 6+ Feel No Pain. 5 Death Company need to kill 150 points or more, else they throw away. Well, I mean, they do need to kill 150 points Pedrog, but also, if, for example, in one of the games against Chaos recently. The guy had 10 Chaos cultists on the backfield objective, right? So I jumped in, killed 9 of them or something. He had to pay 2 CP to auto-pass the morale, but like all he's got left is 2 cultists. So he actually had to turn a Dreadnought back round. Like it was a World Bearer's army. He had to turn a Dreadnought back round and bring it back into his own deployment zone, and it was a Contemptor Dreadnought with a giant chainsword. I assume it would have done a lot of damage, and he had to bring that back into his own deployment zone. So basically the Dreadnought spent turn 1 moving forward, it spent turn 2 moving backwards. So by the end of the game, this Dreadnought had maybe killed the Death Company, but like the Death Company had been thrown away, right? But I guess like it just occupied his forces for long enough that like elsewhere in the battlefield where he needed that Dreadnought, it wasn't there. Any opinions on Assault Centurions? They seem tough and dangerous in close range, but a bit expensive. I wonder if he only has the YouTube chat app. No, I actually have chat app from both Twitch and YouTube in here. And my opinion on the Assault Centurions, I guess they're kind of new for Blood Angels. I was actually thinking of doing a YouTube video on them pretty soon. The thing about them that's kind of interesting is if you did run them with like the Sangri Priest or an Apothecary, then you are bringing back to life like a 70-point model every turn. If one dies, I feel like maybe it's the Assault. Maybe it's the Devastator Centurions that are more. Yeah, so the Assault Centurions can be like 70 points, and the Devastator Centurions can be 80 points. Is that right? Yeah, so I mean, it is interesting in that you're bringing back such an expensive model back into the fight every turn. The one disadvantage is that they don't have core, right? So I guess you would have to deal a little bit with the fact that you're going to get no real rolls on them, but they do not have the -1 to hit like regular Power Fists, right? Because they just have those special siege drills, so that it kind of works themselves out. I'll do a video on the YouTube channel at some point in the next month or so talking about Centurions, just because Blood Angels have never had access to Centurions before, and I generally think they're cool models. I've always kind of wanted some, but we never had access to them. So now that we do, yeah, I'll do some Math Hammer as well, so you'll know exactly how much damage they can dish out, and yeah, I mean, I think it would be quite cool to see Assault Centurions for Blood Angels. I'm sure there'll be fun models to paint as well. Okay, so looking further down this list then, we have Incursors, Infiltrators, generally very strong troop choices. We've talked a lot about these troop choices. We have this little Death Company with jump packs, bolters and chainswords, a Redemptor with the Macroplasma and the Onslaught, 6 Sanguine Guard, axes, swords, Power Fist and Infernal Pistol, another 6, same deal. Vanguard Veterans with what's that? Storm Shield, Thunderhammer, some with Lightning Claws, some with Chainswords and Storm Shields. Sergeant with Storm Shield and Thunderhammer. I feel like you'd be better making the Sergeant have a Relic Blade and Infernal Pistol. It would actually save you 1 point as well, just because you've got enough Storm Shields and stuff in the squad to take the saves, take the losses on like all these other Storm Shield characters. And then 200 points of suppressors. I guess no one runs 200 points of suppressors, but it does give you that option to do a little bit more shooting that we were just talking about, and it also lets you deny a lot of Overwatch. So, definitely a different list here. And quite cool, I guess. So 6-man Sangri Guard times 2, 10-man Vanguard Veterans, 5-man Death Company, Redemptor, Suppressors, Infiltrators, and then oh, you've got 4 HQs in here. Okay, so oh no, you've just got a space. Sorry, 3 HQs. Okay. And this is 2,000 points. Right. So, if you're going to take the Chaplain... And what did you say about Deep Strike? So you are going to... Alright, so I guess the Chaplain's coming down. You're going to pay to get that 7-inch charge. And you're going to have Vanguard Veterans and Sanguine Guard to do that. Death Company to... kind of do what I was saying, come down, take an objective. Redemptor for some fire support. I suppose a Redemptor could be near the suppressors to give them the reroll 1s with his aura. Iron Resolve on the Librarian Dreadnought, which we know he can do a ton of damage. The Sanguine Priest, I guess, is probably going to... The Sanguine Priest doesn't get the ability to deep strike, right? If he has a jump back? Or does it give them the ability to deep strike? Yeah, sorry. So he does. If you take the jump pack, he can deep strike. Okay, so he can join with the deep strike units as well. And then, generally the troop choices are very strong. Okay, so let's have a look then. 3 Phobos units, I think, usually gives us about 9. We didn't have any other abilities to do obsecking, so we'll leave that at that. Anti-Horde infantry, I mean, better than the last list because that's 18 autocannon shots per turn. These guys have 48-inch range. They can be deployed very far back. So, I mean, that's nice. And I guess used in tandem with the Redemptor, I guess that gives us 380 points of shooting. So a little bit better for clearing screens. I mean, if we want to clear infantry, we can still do that. With our Death Company, with our Lightning Claw Vanguard Vets, we've got some Thunderhammers in there as well. I guess we can... 10 Vanguard Vets is generally quite scary, actually. So, I mean, I think we could probably say Anti-Infantry is 9.5, and I think Anti-Vehicle is probably 9, because the one advantage that I've been forgetting to say is Vanguard Veterans get Melta-Bombs, and Melta-Bombs are generally very good in that one model for 1 CP can potentially do 6 mortal wounds to a vehicle. I mean, that's generally very good against like Dreadnoughts with the new Duty Eternal stratagem. You know, it just punches straight through that. You don't have to deal with it. 6 mortal wounds straight on the Dreadnought. And then, I mean, feeling a little bit weaker on your characters, but I guess the weakness is just this one Chaplain. And I just generally hate toughness 4 characters that are going to be in melee combat because they're very easy for the enemy to kill. Especially like the Chaplain doesn't even have a 2+ save, right? He'll just have a 3+ save. Perhaps I have been using bikes so long. Do you know what it is? It's just that I haven't been running. When I was running the Sangri Priest with a jump pack, I was generally not deep striking him. Like I'd start him on the board and try and jump from terrain to terrain. But I haven't run him since September, maybe? Like, I've just been running captains. Captains on bikes, chaplains on bikes, and I've obviously been running a Tech Marine to basically give a +1 to vehicle shooting. So, he is in my new list, so don't worry, he is in my new list. I'll be bringing him back. Okay, and then mobility on this list is high, I guess. The only thing that's not mobile, I guess, is the Redemptor Dreadnought. Even the suppressors have a 12-inch move or a 10-inch. I feel like it's a 10-inch move, but I don't know why it's 12-inch. So Inceptor's just got screwed, I guess. So Inceptor's got a 10-inch move, but Suppressor's got a 12-inch move. Is that just because I guess Inceptors are in Gravis armor and Suppressors aren't? Yeah, I mean, I guess that must be it. Yeah. Okay, so they still have a 12-inch move. So mobility so everything about this list is pretty solid. Like it's this is the sort of list that I would like. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably just switch out like this Chaplain for like a captain on a bike. I'd probably combine these two into one larger Sangri Guard, like 9 men or something. I'd probably give this Death Company a Thunderhammer or an extra model, and then I'd lose the suppressor. And but he said he wanted to use what he owned, so I think using what he owned, I may have overscored this last list actually, but I generally really like everything it can do. I think there's something to be said about having 18 shots at 48-inch range with 2 damage a shot. You know. It can definitely clear out a load of chaff and let your more core units deep strike in. exactly where it wants to be. Connor, I'll say exactly. I'll say what lists are coming the next couple of weeks here in a minute or so. I'm sorry if I didn't get you your list this week. We had sort of had an issue with YouTube last week, so we had to cancel one of the shows, unfortunately. But I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I like the list a lot. Just, I haven't used suppressors enough to feel like if they're valuable. I did use them in 8th edition, and I didn't have that much success with them. I am going to try using them again in 9th. They are in the list that I want to play as soon as lockdown ends. GW have just posted pre-orders for next week on the Warhammer community. The Dark Angels Combat Patrol box looks really good for Blood Angels. Oh, let's have a look then. Latest news. Is this it? No? I thought that this was the post that we saw yesterday. Huh. Have I gone there too quickly? Oh, here you go. It just didn't appear straight away. So, Codex Dark Angels. This is their Combat Patrol box. So they get a Redemptor. What is this? 4 guys? Or it's basically a squad of intercessors with the sergeant having some sort of sword. They get Primaries Chaplin. If these are just the easy to build ones with the Hurricane Bolters, then I'm not so sure I like it. Oh, and are we finally getting these Storm Speeders? The kit can be assembled. Well, then I guess we know what next week's tactics video is. We will math hammer some Storm Speeders to see if we're buying some Storm Speeders. And I guess we're going to get our Eradicators with the actual ability to have the multi-melters, right? So that will be cool as well. And I guess we're getting a new book in this Siege of Terra thing. I posted on the community page. If you haven't started the Siege of Terra series, so this is a series 7 books long. I guess in book 7 it'll be the fight between Sanguinius and the Emperor, not the Emperor, Horus, sorry, with the Emperor, because I guess it's going to be, the Chaos are actually in the solar system now in the Horus Heresy, and it's a 7-part book, and it's called The Siege of Terra. So I've just started part 1, and yeah, I posted a link in the community how you can get this for free if you haven't subscribed yet on Audible before, or even if you have been a member before. There's a link to get a free trial again, even if you've had one before. Okay, so I guess Friday's video is probably going to be math hammering these guys, if that's what's up for pre-order. And yeah, maybe we'll do that other bonus video that we talked about. Let me just finish this list though. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've overscored this list. I'm not sure it was as strong as some of the other ones that we saw today, but it generally does a lot of everything pretty well. Maybe we need... I've completely lost the list as well. Here we go. Okay. So, they won't be the full Inceptor kit. Yeah, that's just the paperback reissue. Nice. Well, I mean, I want to get to that book as well. I'm generally starting to quite enjoy the Horus Heresy series, so we'll get through it. Yeah, I mean, I guess, there's only so much you can do around with Blood Angels, and I guess, or these last 3 lists have all been very samey, right? We've had those 3 squads of Phobos units, we've had the small Death Company, we've had the Death Company, we've had a decent number of Sangri Guards, some of them having Vanguard veterans, some of them have had Inceptors, Redemptor Dreadnought, Suppressors, and then obviously the Sangri Priest, Librarian Dreadnought in this case. We'll probably mark it down in specialization because the other 2 had that Librarian that is utility, whereas Librarian Dreadnought is much more one-dimensional. But, I mean, although he's one-dimensional, he still is very, very strong in terms of raw damage. So, the HQs maybe in this list are a little bit more one-dimensional, but, I mean, they can still obviously do a job, and against a lot of armies, they can still be generally very effective. I mean, Librarian Dreadnought up against someone like Mortarion can be absolutely brutal. And I haven't thought of this, but I suppose the Librarian Dreadnought, just thinking about it now, he could mastercraft one of his weapons, right? Could he mastercraft his Furioso Fist? No, because it's a relic, sorry. There's a Warlord trait. There's no Warlord trait you can get that could give you... But I suppose you could... If you just wanted to make him like a glass cannon, we could take Imperium... Sword of the Imperium on the Librarian Dreadnought and give him like 11 attacks. And he'd be... I mean, he'd already be wounding something like Mortarion on 2s anyway, so it would just be giving him +1 attacks. Don't you get... There's a Warlord trait that makes you better against characters, though, isn't there? I don't think I've ever used it. What's it called again? Champion of Humanity. Each time this Warlord fights, if it was engagement range of an enemy character, then until that fight is resolved, add 1 to its attacks. Each time this Warlord makes a melee attack against a character, add 1 to that attack's hit and wound roll. Yeah, so I mean, I guess if you really wanted to have a Librarian Dreadnought to just kill Mortarion, then you could just give him Champion of Humanity and you could be hitting on 2s for 10 attacks. And obviously you would be wounding on 2s. That might be also like a surefire way to like deal out a lot of damage to Mortarion. If you play a game that allows legends, I think there's an option for Sangri Priest, Champion, Tech Marine on a bike. Come on, John, let's get the full set. No, we're not doing legends. Hey, everyone, right? We got that. Are Hellbasters viable? Right now, Hellbasters. I mean, I kind of like the idea of the Assault ones because it's Assault 3 now, but I've not used them. I will math hammer them at some point. Like I always. Every video that I do out on the YouTube channel on Friday includes like some math hammer, and we work out like what's doing well in battles and what's optimal and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll look at the math hammer for Hellbasters in the near future. But right now, I'm not sure if they're really viable. I mean, again, it's plasma weapons, so again, you need some sort of way to reroll your ones. If you have that, then maybe you do okay with them. Good day, sir. And when is that combat patrol available? I guess just this is straight off the Games Workshop website. It just went straight up, so I'm guessing these are pre-orders for next Sunday. Let me see if it's... Usually the pre-orders happen on Saturday, though, right? Pre-order next weekend, yeah. So the pre-orders normally go Saturday morning at like 10 a.m, give or take. So, yeah, we'll math hammer these new land speeders then. We'll probably compare them against some of the current land speeders, maybe compare them against the ATVs, see if they are worth buying. I mean, Eradicators are definitely worth buying if you don't have them. These Blade Guard kits are pretty cool, but and Blade Guards are good as well. So, I mean, I guess the never-ending wallet purchasing thing will continue next weekend. There's very little stopping me from converting regular interceptors into assault interceptors. I've got enough chainsword arms and bolt pistol arms kicking around. That's probably very true. Good evening, Reziel. How you doing? Double the hit rolls for the platform, basically. Double hit reforms for the platform, basically. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yeah, so they're usually... It's pre-order one Saturday, release the Saturday after that. Okay, so I think we scored out this last... I mean, the last 3 lists were all very similar, guys. They're all decent lists. And I think I think a lot, like if you're brand new to Blood Angels or you're struggling to build an army list, then all the lists are now in the comments on the video on YouTube, so you can go and have a look at the lists there. They are all fairly decent. I think I would say that any of them would be viable for a battle, and against Toughness 8, there's no difference between Power Fists and Encarmite Sword. I mean, there is. On Toughness 8, Blood Angels will wound on 3s because of our +1 from Red Thirst. So that's why you would spend the 5 points, I guess, Lord Warrior. There's no difference between axes and swords against Toughness 8. I have a ton I need to buy and a ton I still need to build. Yeah, I hear you, Mark. That is the never-ending grind of this hobby. So yeah, we're about 15 minutes over for the live show this week, but that's fine. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I hope I answered all your questions in the chat. I guess just a couple of things to say then is we do have a Facebook group in the video description below. If you want to join the Facebook group, there is, like, we chat and we share photos and everything every week. You can also now join the channel if you want. There's a big join button underneath the video, so if you want to consider joining, that would be great too. And yeah, we are aiming to have a video out on like Tuesday and Friday this week, and we might be back just doing some random painting one night this week as well, depending on how quick or how slow it takes me to make those other videos for the channel. But yeah, I mean, we're still in lockdown here in the UK. It's still going to last at least a few more weeks. So we are struggling. Yeah, I mean, we are struggling to have the live Monday games back, but we will get them as soon as possible. Yeah, I mean, you do have to factor in the -1 to hit, right? If you are taking the Power Fists. But the thing is, if Sanguine Guard are within 6 inches of your Warlord, they get +1 to hit from being Sanguine Guard, so that basically negates the -1 from the Power Fist. And then if you have rerolls or you have a banner, because some people run the Sangri Ancient with a banner, that can also give you +1 to hit. So if you have +2 to hit, although you're -1 to hit, you end up with +1 to hit, which means your Power Fists can hit on 2s, same as your swords, same as your axes. So there is ways to make... You know, when I run my Sangri Guard, they're usually always with my Warlord, which means they're always got their +1 to hit, and then they usually have Chapter Master rerolls on them, because I usually feel like that's who you get the most value giving the Chapter Master rerolls from onto. You know, it's like 8 Sangri Guards, so you usually end up hitting with every single Power Fist. I think in some of the battle reports you saw recently, I had like 20 Power Fists and 20 Axes, and we missed with 1 Power Fist. So I think that 1 missed Power Fist, based on the +1 you get to all the wound rolls, probably ended up the Power Fists hit more often. But yeah, no, cheers. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Mark, Pedroig, I feel like there's more people that have been helpful in chatting through the whole stream. Adam, definitely. Julian. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you guys keeping the chat going and answering all the questions and keeping me right when I make sense. Buffs stack, but they never modify the final roll. Buffs stack, but they never can modify the final roll beyond more + or -1. So what that means is, if you have +2 to hit, you only get +1, right, when you roll the dice. But if you have +2 to hit and a -1 to hit, you still have that +1 when you roll the dice. So you have to add and take away all the modifiers first. And then if the result is still more than + or -1, it gets modified to whichever is larger, the + or -1, right? So if you can get +2 to hit with your Power Fists, because of the -1 in the Power Fists, you still end up actually getting a +1 to hit. Took me a little while to get that rule clear in my head. It's not super easy to understand, especially if you don't do a lot of math, I guess, in your day-to-day life. But yeah, so okay, we'll be back on Tuesday. Mark, if you want to send me that list, maybe that's what we'll do on Tuesday, and on Friday we'll come in, we'll look at that new Storm Speeder, and we'll work out if we need... how much do you guys think the Storm Speeder is going to cost? I'm guessing like £35, maybe like $45 is my guess. So guess the cost of the Storm Speeder will be the game for next week, and yeah, we'll let you know basically which is going to be the best one, or we'll math hammer it against everything, and we'll see which one is gonna perform the best. So I hope you guys have a great Sunday. It was really nice to be back after last week's $60. Surely not. Hopefully it's really nice to be back. We'll definitely see you guys a couple of times this week. They'll definitely have some videos out, and yeah, have a great Sunday, and we'll see. £50 GB? No way, surely not. Like a Redemptor? Like a how much is a repulsor? A repulsor's 50. I mean, nah. How much was the Gladiator? I never bought the Gladiator. Oh the Gladiator was more expensive than the repulsor? It's smaller. What? Isn't it? I thought this was more like an impulsor. Okay, and it's for... Okay. Ugh. And how much is Land Speeder at the moment? Land Speeder is $22.50. Alright, it better not be... Right, $45.50. Do you know what? Let's have a thread in the Facebook group, and let's see if someone can guess the price correctly for this new... Yeah, maybe it is going to be like $45.50. I guess we'll find out. So, US dollar price hikes for GW aren't based on exchange. Way worse in Australia. Yeah, I mean, it is getting very expensive, this hobby. I mean, I guess that is one thing to say. But, I mean, that's just what it is. The new stuff. I mean, the new models are a lot nicer. So I guess we have to... I mean, I guess we get more enjoyment out of them, but still, it can be very expensive. So, okay, all right. Have a great Sunday, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you all. I'm sure I will see you all soon, and I'll see a bunch of you in the Facebook group as well. By the blood are we made, brothers. Peace.